Welcome to the Kankakee Area Football Podcast. I'm Steve Soucie, joined as always by Mason Schweizer. How you doing today, Mason?
I'm doing great, Suze. How are you?
Oh, not too bad. Just had to go close the door over here so we didn't get a cacophony of sound from a couple of my pets in the house. So, yep, doing pretty good. Getting ready for Week 8. Looks like a big schedule of games. Basically a situation where we've got a lot of area teams going up against one another, and that should make for some interesting matchups.
Yes, this is always one of the most fun weeks of the year. We get one or two of these a season, with especially the VVC being all local matched up against one another. And so here comes an exciting Week 8 on our docket, and some big city games too that I assume we'll start with.
Yeah, let's start with those. Let's switch it up a little bit this week. We'll go with Kankakee to start here, heading to Thornton for their game in Southland Conference play. We've gone over this ad nauseum. This is just kind of another game on the path for the K's at this point, just trying to keep the eye on the ball.
Yep, 5 in a row now for the K's, a big 48-0 win over Bloom. One thing though, Cedric Terrell III, man, he's had another big week doing it all sides of the ball. He caught a touchdown, ran a touchdown, had a big interception. The K's really starting to click at the right time. I know the offense took a little bit to kind of get this new system implemented, but they've really been ripping things along right through.
You know, the K's in this situation has been going this way for a couple of years, where they kind of have to keep the eye on the prize on an individual basis, because the opponent that they're facing usually can't really keep up with them. It seems like they're doing that again. It also seems like recently the defense has been playing a little bit better too.
Yeah, the defense is had 3 shutouts in the last 4, maybe 5 games. Getting things turned out right in time for Crete Monee next week. I was actually at Kankakee last night for some girls volleyball, and the chatter is already starting around there about the big game with Crete Monee coming up next Friday.
Sounds good. Let's shift gears now to Bradley Bourbonnais. Obviously, this is, there were 2 games on the schedule that were kind of circled at the beginning of the season, and as the season went along, the first one did not go the Boilermakers' way with a loss to Lincoln Way Central. Now the second one, the game up at Lincoln Way West with an undefeated Lincoln Way West team. Bradley trying to make a statement here that they can maybe 3-way split this conference title here. If they don't, obviously it would be their second loss of the season. But you got to feel like this is a game that, even though on paper it looks like Lincoln Way West is your favorite, you got to feel like Bradley Bourbonnais has got a chance to win this football game, don't you?
Yeah, this is a team with the weapons they've got, and really what we haven't talked about enough, the line play that they've got, and that defense that we've seen step up. They think they can win any game. And, that game against Lincoln Way Central had a really rough first quarter, did not get off the bus well. We're in a hole the rest of the way. And, they got to within a touchdown, got a chance for a late Hail Mary that they, couldn't convert. But I think a big thing too, they're pretty, knock on wood here, pretty healthy for, the grind of a 7A, class 7A-ish season, to be 7 games through and have the health they have, I think is a huge thing. And like you said, this makes a 3-way tie, at least for the time being, atop the Southwest Valley Red, which has been quite a fun, entertaining stretch. And I've heard a lot of really good things about this Lincoln Way West team. So curious to see how the Boilers match up with them.
Yeah, it's a pretty good defensive team. I'm curious, and you mentioned that they didn't have a very good start against Lincoln Way Central when they went up there. And I mean, I wasn't at the game. I was listening to it on the radio a little bit coming home. It looks like they didn't start all that great last week either against DeKalb, and ended up having to kind of break away in the second half of that one. Is this a concern for Bradley, that they maybe are having a little bit of trouble getting the engine going at the early portion of games?
The Boilers didn't punt one time against DeKalb Friday. With that game, the Barbs did a really good job running a Wildcat offense that just 5-6 yards at a time. Their opening drive took up over half the first quarter. So I know from a scoreboard standpoint, things didn't really look that big early, but I mean, they scored every time they got the ball. It just, those first couple of drives, it took them a while to get the ball. Forced a punt on the second drive, but it took a while. Once things got rolling, the end of the first half, Byron Summerall had a big interception in the end zone. And then third quarter, Rontez Smith touchdown, third play of the drive, and that really kind of got them sparked for the second half. But yeah, I think, on the road, it's always a concern about how you start a game.
More and more, it looks like Bradley's going to be a 6A team in the postseason. We talked about this a little bit before, but now it kind of becomes a little bit of a chess match in regards to how Bradley can finish and where they might end up falling. From a geographical perspective, you can check out the latest playoff projection that I put together on Friday Night Drive. Both Nazareth and East St. Louis could end up on the south side of the bracket along with Bradley Bourbonnais, which makes for a pretty stacked situation there, along with some other quality teams as well. So, 8-1 or 7-2 in this situation, it does have some effect on where you might be. More importantly, it might have an effect on if you get a couple of rounds deep, whether or not you get that game at home. And I think for Bradley, that's really important. I feel like they play a lot better at home than they do on the road.
I'll tell you what, whenever I cover Lincoln Way East and Bradley Bourbonnais, which has only been, I think, twice maybe, but whether it's Coach Zavonar there or Coach Woodburn at Central, whoever I talk to, they always say Bradley Bourbonnais is sneakily the toughest place in our conference to play. There's just something magical about Barclay Memorial Stadium, and especially in that conference where, they're kind of the one outlier, especially in the Southwest suburban side of that conference, where everyone else is really bunched up, and then you got to head a little south for them, and kind of in relative no man's land in the 6-7A landscape, and a really tough place to play, like you said, and the Boilers always seem to play a little bit better at home.
Moving on to the 8-0, one of the very few 7-0 showdowns in the state. I believe there are 3 this week. Bishop McNamara traveling to Chicago Hope. There's not a long track record history between these two programs, but it's kind of an interesting one, to be completely honest with you. I did a little bit of research. I was digging it out. Of schools that Bishop McNamara has played at least 3 times, Hope is one of 4 schools that Bishop McNamara has never defeated. So that's a little interesting factoid that I dug out from research this week. So
I'm curious, do you know offhand the other 3?
I know one of them is Marist, and I think one of the other ones is also Brother Rice. And I'm not sure. I can't remember who the 4th one was.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I tell this Hope Academy team, whether it's they played Wilmington last year. I saw Kankakee Athletic Director Ronnie Wilcox last night, and he mentioned how I believe it was the COVID year or that year after.
Yes.
They got together for a random game. So we've gotten to see the Eagles in some random spurts, and a place I was telling you the other day, I've always heard it's a really cool place to catch a game. But in terms of the talent on the field, both of these teams have answered every test that they've been given thus far, whether it be in conference or out. They both can score a ton of points. Both of them have defenses that haven't had to really stress too much, but when they've had to, they've been okay. This is a very evenly matched game. I think there's a slight home field advantage in a tight game like this. That's always worth a couple extra points there. But whoever wins this one, man, they're going to be after IC and Byron. I think whoever wins this game in Class 3A, you got to put right there in terms of who might have a shot.
It's interesting. A lot of things about Hope are interesting this season. The fact they have been a 1A postseason team in the past, the changes to the multiplier rule has bumped them up into that 3A field. But this is a team that has been a really quality program. A couple of years ago, they gave Lena Winslow all they wanted in a 1A playoff game up at Altgeld Park, which is right. It's one of the more unique environments that you're going to see a high school football game. Obviously, real estate at a premium up in Chicagoland up there, so they've kind of pigeonholed a field into a space that you didn't think you could fit a field into up there. So really cozy. I know in the past, I haven't been there in a couple years, but there would be times when you'd make a passing play, and if you weren't careful, you'd run right into a wall that was basically on the outside of the end zone there. So a fence wall type of area where you had to be careful about running deep pass patterns through the end zone. So definitely kind of one of those things that is unique to their environment. But that's a program that has consistently cranked out victories and actual enrollment wise, it's a tiny school. So the level of athlete and competitor that they have at that school seems to be a constant machine, and it's pretty surprising with a school that size that they're able to produce consistently strong football programs. Last few years at the 1A level, now being bumped up to 3. Interesting to see how they handle that transition. But I think in their case, this conference helps prepare them for that, because if they were in the 1A playoffs before, they had a definite advantage playing 3s and 4s all year long. But for Hope, it has helped them. So it'll be interesting to see how they transition into 3. I think they'll ultimately be fine because they've competed very well in a pretty good 3A, 4A conference. So I think that's going to be a heck of a football game. I'm really looking forward to see how that one shapes out. Other than that, I think we're going to take a quick break here, hear a word from our sponsors, and when we come back, we'll break down the Illinois Central 8 and the Vermilion Valley.
SGKR Injury Attorneys tackles the toughest cases. I'm Matt Rundio. When life throws a flag, we go on offense to protect your rights. Don't get sidelined. Score a touchdown with SGKR. Visit us at sgkr.law.
At Oliver's, we are proud to serve our community. We serve up great customer service, quality products, ease of shopping, and we serve up delicious barbecued sandwiches at our fundraiser cookouts. So stop by Oliver's, 748 North Britton and Dixon, and help fund our local clubs and events.
In Illinois and into Iowa, the story of Shaw Media is a story of trust. Since 1851, we've been informing, connecting, and reflecting the communities we serve, large and small, rural and urban, suburban, and river towns alike, with dozens of local newspapers, radio stations, magazines, and specialty brands like Friday Night Drive and Starve Rock Country. We meet people wherever they are. We shine a light on local government. We celebrate Friday night touchdowns. We tell the stories that shape your day, from neighborhood heroes to the Chicago Bears. But what truly sets us apart? It's our people. The award-winning journalists, broadcasters, and storytellers who live here, work here, and care deeply about what matters most to you. We don't just report the news. We're part of the fabric of the places we serve, from the Mississippi to the Illinois, from the Fox all the way to the chain of lakes. Trusted for generations, still earning it every day. Shaw Media, your most trusted local source.
Welcome back to the Kankakee Area Football Podcast. Mason, let's take a look at the Illinois Central 8 matchups for this week. It's one of those weeks, and we were talking about it a little bit before we came on the air, kind of odd because all of our area teams outside of the city schools are playing another area team this week. So a lot of natural rivalry games that I know a lot of these teams look forward to playing one another. Let's start with the one that has, I guess, the most geographic proximity in the ice. Manteno and Piatone playing this week. Just out of curiosity, I once timed this door to door. There's 8 minutes. You can make the school from front door to front door in 8 minutes if you catch it right. So that's how close we're talking about. Way back in the Wayback Machine, former cooperative partners between Manteno and Piatone. Yeah. So there's a bit of a long history between these two communities, and it's a game that you kind of always feel like, even though the records are a little skewed here, it doesn't matter that much. They usually come at each other with whatever they have left to give. And I think this one tends to look that way too. We got one team on one side that's in a much better playoff position, and another team on another one that absolutely needs this game in Piatone. They have to win this football game. Yeah. And if not, they're not going to the playoffs. It's really that cut and dried. Manteno just trying to help their playoff position along here.
Yeah, like you said, you don't need to add anything with the records for this one, but when it's a 4-3 against a 3-4, and like you said, Manteno feels good about being able to get to 5 by the end of week 9. The Panthers need to win both. Even without that, this one, I always like to tell people it's fitting that they wear purple and blue, because they end up bruising each other up pretty good by the end of this one. The Rumble on Route 50, it's called that for a reason. And it's kind of funny, Souce. We think of this one, at least since the two current coaches got to their schools, Coach Siamis at Piatone, Coach Haynes at Manteno, where we know that we're going to see a lot of, tight double wing, ground heavy attack from Piatone, and Manteno's going to spread you out. And really, I think there's a chance that this year we might kind of see those roles reversed, at least at times. The Blue Devils have gone back the last couple of weeks to their more ground heavy approach, but have displayed a little bit of spread offense this year. The Panthers, man, I think we need to tip our cap to them for the way that they went down to a really good GCMS team last week and out-physicaled them with 5 rushing touchdowns and over 250 rushing yards. I think that was a great sign for them. They're starting to get healthy a little bit. And like you said, the playoff implications for this one, I'm going to be at this game, and I could not be more excited.
Now we're looking at a situation now, moving on. We've got Herscher at Coal City. Herscher kind of breathing a little bit of a sigh of relief after getting that win last week, gives them win number 5. So while they certainly like to win this game, it takes a little bit of that pressure off and allows them to kind of go into this Coal City game and take it on as, whatever happens, happens. Herscher's a substantial underdog in this game. I mean, solely based on the fact that how well Coal City is playing. But I think for Herscher right now, it's more about, hey, can we compete with these guys? Can we play with these guys? A little less of kind of a desperation mode of, oh, we really need to pull a rabbit out of our hat here and get this win. They're still okay if they don't get this win. So, I mean, I'm sure that takes a little bit of that playoff pressure. The program hasn't been in the playoffs for a few years now. So winning that game against Reed Custer, very kind of pivotal for them. Now that they've got that win in their pocket, they can start thinking about, that they're definitely going to have a postseason in Herscher.
Well, and I think this speaks volumes to the talent of our football area, that the Tigers are snapping a 5-year playoff drought. And that was the longest drought in our area, which is just insane to me. But yeah, a huge win. The Tigers have had a couple of really dramatic late games that they've won, and they're 5-2 now and in great shape. And like you said, this Kohlers team, nobody wants to see them on their side of the Class 4A bracket. I'm telling you that right now. Out of any of our teams, I would say that maybe Coal City has the best chance at a state title in their class. I'd say them, Kankakee, Wilmington, probably Bradley Bourbonnais, maybe. I really like this Coal City team. They're so balanced, can come at you so many ways. And like you said, the Tigers, they know that they're probably a bit of an underdog, maybe a chance at scoring an upset here and seeing what can happen. But I think the Kohlers, they've got Wilmington in week 9. They're not going to overlook the Tigers before it, but I'm sure that they're excited to see the Wildcats here next Friday too.
Speaking of Wilmington, obviously a situation where, I mean, they go into this game at Reed Custer as a substantial favorite. They're playing spectacular football. They're getting things done. The one thing that I noticed when I was looking at this, what is the status of Ryan Kettman? I realized that he did not play, or at least did not show up in last week's box score. Do you know what's going on there?
Yeah, he did sit out last week, I believe, and they went for 40 plus against Streeter. So I don't really have any insight other than I had assumed that maybe he's just kind of getting rested up. They know that they're kind of in pretty good shape right now. But I like you said, Souce, this Reed Custer team, we've been really excited at what they've kind of done this season and Coach Turek's first year there. Essentially 4-4. They get the forfeit win against Lyle in week 9. So they know that if they want to be in the playoffs, they've got to score a big upset over Wilmington. So I think, offensive coordinator Nick Klein has got a bunch of tricks up his sleeve, I'm sure. I'm sure that we're going to see them all pulled out in an attempt to try and best the Wildcats. And, kind of like Coal City, Wilmington, not going to overlook anybody, but certainly ready for a big week 9 matchup for sure.
Yeah, I went out and took in a half of that game last week involving Reed Custer and Herscher. And I kind of got the sense from watching Reed Custer, yes, they have made some improvements, but you can tell just kind of looking around, this is a young team that's gaining experience week by week. And the core of this team is going to be back. So, next season, and you don't want to start thinking that way while you're still in this season. But that's kind of the reality of the situation. Massive underdog this week. And like you said, getting the forfeit win in week 9. So this essentially is likely going to end their season, this game. Just kind of, I'm sure, like you said, Coach Klein will probably throw everything in the kitchen sink that he has at him, because they really don't have anything to lose by making that attempt, because the expectation is that they're probably going to have a hard time competing in this game. So, well, we've only got 2 games to talk about in the Vermilion Valley this week because all 4 of our teams are playing one another. things continually going well for Clifton Central as they travel down to Iroquois West. For them right now, I think it's probably to try to cultivate as much momentum as they can as they get ready and try to secure the highest seed that they possibly can in a potentially loaded 1A North bracket.
Yeah, Souce, while we've been on the pod here, we have gotten the AP polls. I don't think that we're going to be able to discuss them in here because they'll be embargoed for a bit. But yeah, you look, there are a ton of teams that have 6 or 7 wins in Class 1A right now. So you need to go 8-1 to secure a relatively good seed in there. And I won't get started on how low the Comets are relative to where they should be in that poll. But yeah, I mean, they've been chugging along here. This is a pretty fun rivalry game. They had a couple of really good matchups not too long ago. The Raiders and the Comets did, but kind of two programs at opposite sides of things. Clifton Central, a team that has a ton of seniors that have gotten 3-4 years experience. Iroquois West, a ton of freshmen and sophomores that are just starting that journey. So maybe next year or two, this one is a little closer like it was a couple of years ago. But the Comets really, I think, have the upper hand this week.
And we wrap up the Vermilion Valley schedule with Moments and Watseka, two teams right now that are just trying to finish up the season in a way that is positive for them because obviously, like we've talked about before, both of them are pretty much out of the playoff mix. There really isn't opportunity for either of those programs at this point.
Yeah, Moments, they're going to look back, I'm sure. 2 losses by a combined 3 points this year, or else, they're looking at 4-3 being able to qualify for the playoffs this week. So, when you look at a kid like Eric Castile, a kid we've talked about almost every week on here, 4-year starting quarterback, heart really kind of hurts for him that he's not going to get to go out on better terms. But I tell you what, I think these next couple weeks, expect to see him just throwing it as many times as he can and really making the most of his last couple of weeks. And for Watseka, a team that a little bit more experience with seniors than they were last year, but still relatively young, pretty junior heavy. So they're going to look to kind of find some strides and some positives to build off of in the last 2 weeks of their season as well. And another one of, like you said, these are all local versus local rivalries. So atmosphere should be pretty good in Watseka on Friday. And Souce, we've got one more game to discuss, and it is quite a doozy. We may have saved the best for last.
Yeah, we've got the 2 8-man teams here sitting here. This is the big showdown game that we've kind of been pointing to through the entire season. MCP hosting St. Anne, battle of 6-1 teams. It's just kind of a situation now where those two teams have kind of seem like they've been on a collision course all season long. How do you see this game, and what do you think it's going to be the key points for both sides?
Well, first of all, I do feel somewhat bad that, we hyped up for the last few weeks about maybe doing something big down there together. And of course, me lacking the foresight that Thursday night is my grandma's birthday. And so we'll be out celebrating that. So Adam will be down there. We'll have it fully covered. Don't worry. But these two teams are kind of mirror images of one another, at least in a way where, excuse me, they both have quarterbacks that are seniors who have been around for 3 years leading their huddles, who can do it all. Grant Pomeranski from St. Anne and Dirk Snookum from Milford Cissna Park both can sling it, both can run it. Both have been doing both plenty this year. Both have wide receiver defensive backs that both have had great two-way seasons. Matthew Langelier with the Cardinals, Skylar Estee for the Bearcats. So like as really similar teams in terms of potency, in terms of 6-1 records with 6 really dominant victories. This one was really good last year. The Bearcats barely snuck by. The Cardinals going to look to return the favor now on the road. But yeah, I think this is your headline game of the Illinois 8-Man Football Association this week, and really, really excited to see how this one comes out.
Should be a fun one on both sides. So always an interesting one. Like I said, it's Milford is a great place to watch a game. It's one of those places, those environments that just takes you almost back in time a little bit, to be honest with you, because it's a really nice setup down there for it.
I have to say though, there was one thing that I always look forward to at Milford Cissna, going to any Milford event, not just football. The I Don't Care Grill and Chill. Tremendous place to grab a bite, grab some ice cream. RIP. So just know I don't care. I cared. I do miss you.
Sounds good. Well, Mace, enjoy the battle for Route 50 on Friday night. And until next time, we look forward to talking a little bit more Kankakee County area football. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.